Liara, the alien princess, walked slowly through the palace gardens. The flowers were tall and glowing, the air filled with soft hums of strange insects and the twinkle of distant stars. She should have felt happy. After all, she was a princess, living in a palace that floated above a sparkling alien planet. But inside she felt empty and sad. No one wanted to be near her. The other aliens whispered and laughed at her quiet nature. The nobles avoided her, seeing her as different. Even the palace attendants treated her politely but without warmth. She felt invisible, as if the whole world had forgotten her. Liara stopped at a fountain in the center of the garden. The water shimmered like liquid light. She knelt and looked at her reflection, her big violet eyes staring back. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "No one wants me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Why does everyone hate me? Why can't anyone like me?" She buried her face in her hands, wishing she could disappear. Not far from the gardens, in the busy workshop of the space station, a human named Ethan worked on a broken hovercar. His hands were greasy, his overalls covered in scratches and oil stains. He loved fixing things. Small machines, large ships, even tiny robots, he could repair almost anything. Today the hovercar had refused to start, and he was determined to make it fly again. He tightened bolts, checked wires, and adjusted the power cores. Despite the noise and chaos of the workshop, he hummed softly. Fixing things made him happy, gave him purpose. When he finished, he decided to test the hovercar. It sputtered, lifted, and then floated smoothly above the workshop floor. He smiled, proud of the work. But as he looked out the window, he noticed something strange. A figure moved alone in the glowing palace gardens. She seemed small and fragile against the wide, shining plants and fountains. Ethan's curiosity pulled him toward her. He didn't know why, but he felt like she needed help. He stepped carefully into the gardens, keeping his tools in his hand in case of trouble. He walked closer, noticing the princess's head bent, shoulders shaking. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. Liara startled, wiping her tears. She looked at the human with surprise. She had never seen a human on the palace grounds before, and certainly not one who spoke to her so kindly. I'm fine," she said quickly, sniffing. But Ethan shook his head, crouching slightly so he didn't look too tall or intimidating. "You're crying," he said softly. "You don't have to pretend." Liara stared at him. No one had ever noticed her feelings before. Everyone avoided her, or worse, treated her with cold respect. But this human, a simple mechanic with messy hair and bright brown eyes, seemed to care. She took a shaky breath. No one wants me," she admitted. "Everyone ignores me, even my own people. I'm useless. I'm just alone." Ethan listened quietly, nodding. He didn't interrupt or offer empty words. Instead, he sat on a nearby stone bench and said, "I can't fix that for you the way I fix machines. But I can listen. I can be here. That counts for something, right?" Liara blinked. She had never expected anyone to say that. She sat down beside him, a little hesitant. I've never had a friend," she whispered. "Everyone is too busy, too proud, or too afraid of me. I just want someone to care." Ethan smiled gently. "I care. I don't know much about being a princess, but I know what it's like to feel left out. You're not alone right now." Something inside Liara shifted. For the first time in years, a small warmth spread in her chest. It was like a spark lighting in the dark. She had never imagined that someone from another world, someone ordinary, could make her feel seen. She wanted to ask him questions, tell him stories, share secrets. But for now, she simply sat quietly, letting herself feel safe. They stayed there for hours, talking about simple things. Liara asked about Earth, about how humans lived, and Ethan explained in simple words. He asked her about her planet, her palace, and the flowers she liked. She laughed softly when he mispronounced the names of alien plants. She realized that talking to him didn't make her feel judged. She felt happy, something she hadn't felt in a long time. As the sun set behind the glowing towers of the station, Liara stood. The stars above her shimmered brighter than ever. She looked at Ethan. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling but sincere. I feel better now." Ethan smiled. "Anytime," he said simply. "I'll be around. You don't have to face everything alone." Liara watched him walk back toward his workshop, feeling a strange, wonderful hope she had never known. For the first time, she believed that maybe, just maybe, someone in the universe wanted her after all. And deep inside, a quiet thought formed in her mind: maybe this human could be my friend. Or something more. After that first meeting in the palace gardens, Liara couldn't stop thinking about the human mechanic. Ethan had a kind face and calm voice, and most importantly, he had listened. No one else in the palace had ever done that. She wondered what it would be like to have someone by her side who cared for her, not because she was a princess but because she was herself. The next morning, Liara found an excuse to go to the workshop. She told herself she just wanted to see the machines and learn a little about them. But deep down she wanted to see Ethan again. When she arrived, she found him bent over a broken drone, his hands moving quickly but carefully. He looked up and smiled when he saw her. "Princess Liara," he said. "What brings you here?" I wanted to learn about your work," she said softly, trying not to sound too eager. Ethan laughed gently. "Well, you're in the right place. Machines are my life, but I can show you a few things. Just don't touch the plasma cutter," he warned with a playful tone. Liara giggled, feeling a lightness in her chest she hadn't felt in years. Ethan showed her how a small drone worked, explaining each part in simple words. Liara listened closely, asking questions. She loved hearing about a world so different from the palace. Machines that hummed, wires that glowed, and engines that roared when they started. She felt curious and alive, and Ethan noticed the change in her eyes. "You really like this, don't you?" he asked, smiling. "I do," she admitted. "It's different from being in the palace. Here, I feel like I can do something even if it's small." Ethan nodded. "That's what I like about machines. They're simple. You fix them, they work. People are harder, but maybe not as hard as you think." Liara looked at him, her eyes wide. You don't think I'm weak or useless?" "Not at all," Ethan said. "You're brave for even being here, and smart too. Most people your age, or any age, wouldn't care to learn something new." For the first time, Liara felt proud of herself. She had spent years hiding in the palace, afraid to be noticed, afraid to fail. But with Ethan, she felt safe to try, to make mistakes, to laugh when she didn't understand something. Over the next week, Liara began visiting the workshop every day. She learned how to repair small engines, how to solder wires, and even how to adjust hovercraft engines. Ethan guided her patiently, never rushing, never judging. When she succeeded at something, he celebrated with her like she had achieved a great victory. One day, while fixing a small shuttle engine together, Liara asked softly, "Ethan, why do you help me?" "You don't have to. You could ignore me like everyone else." Ethan paused, wiping grease from his hands. "I help because you matter. You're kind even when no one else notices. You're smart and curious. That's worth caring about." Liara's heart swelled. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever made her feel important just for being herself. She looked at him and realized that she trusted him more than anyone else she had ever met. Their friendship grew stronger each day. They shared stories about their worlds. Liara told Ethan about the palace, the planets she had seen, and the glowing gardens she loved. Ethan told her about Earth, about human cities, music, and even the simple pleasure of walking under a night sky. They laughed together when their worlds clashed, like when Liara tried to pronounce a human word and got it hilariously wrong. One evening, as the twin suns of the alien planet set, Liara and Ethan sat together on the roof of the workshop. The sky turned pink and gold, reflecting off the shimmering space station. Liara leaned back, watching the stars appear. "I never thought I could feel this happy," she said softly. Ethan smiled, sitting next to her. "Happiness is about small things. Laughing, learning, sharing moments like this. It doesn't need to be big." Liara nodded. "I want to see more of the galaxy, to learn more, to, I don't know, be more than just a lonely princess." "You can," Ethan said. "And I'll be here. You won't have to face it alone." For the first time, Liara believed it. She believed that someone in the universe wanted her, cared for her, and would stay by her side. She felt a warm light in her chest, a spark of hope that made her feel alive. As they watched the stars together, Liara realized that friendship could grow in the most unexpected places. A human mechanic, far from her world, had become her friend. And perhaps one day he could become more than a friend. But for now it was enough just to feel seen, understood, and cared for. That night, as Liara returned to her palace, she felt lighter than she had in years. She wasn't invisible anymore. She had a friend. Someone who listened, who cared, who saw her. And for a lonely princess, that was the beginning of something extraordinary. The day of the Galactic Summit had arrived, and the space station was buzzing with activity. Delegates from hundreds of alien worlds arrived in shining ships, each trying to impress the others with their wealth, power, or status. The station's corridors were filled with flashing lights, humming engines, and the chatter of beings from countless planets. Liara walked through it all, her head held high, but her heart raced. She had never felt so out of place. The summit was a tradition for the royal family. The princess was expected to choose a partner from the assembled elite delegates. They would offer gifts, promises, and flattery, and the princess was to select the one deemed worthy. But Liara had no interest in any of them. They didn't understand her and they didn't care for her. They only saw her as a title, a jewel to display. She felt a heavy sadness settle in her chest. Ethan had come with her, not as a guest of honor, but quietly to support her. He had been fixing a minor engine problem in one of the summit halls as usual, and now he stood near the back watching her. Seeing him there gave Liara courage. His presence reminded her that she didn't need the approval of the summit or the court to feel worthy. The ceremony began. Delegates stepped forward, offering shimmering gifts, intricate devices, and words that glittered like starlight. Some bowed with practiced grace, others boasted of their accomplishments and riches. Liara watched, her violet eyes scanning each face. None of them spoke to her heart. None of them saw her. One by one they failed to impress her. She felt their arrogance, their emptiness, and their disregard for who she truly was. The whispers of the court grew louder. She is too quiet, too different, she will choose wisely eventually. But Liara's mind was made up. She would not choose anyone here. Ethan, standing in the shadows, noticed the tension. He could see the pressure weighing on Liara, the forced politeness masking her discomfort. He stepped closer, speaking softly so only she could hear. Remember, Liara, you don't have to choose them. You don't need their approval. Just be yourself. That's enough. Liara nodded, taking a deep breath. His words grounded her. She realized that her happiness didn't come from titles, gifts, or appearances. It came from being true to herself and finding people who cared for her, not what she represented. Finally, the summit master announced that it was time for the princess to make her choice. Gasps filled the hall. All eyes turned to Liara. Delegates straightened their shoulders, hoping she would choose one of them. She walked to the center of the chamber, feeling the weight of dozens of eyes, thousands of expectations. But inside she felt calm. She looked around, scanning the room. Then she saw him, Ethan, standing quietly at the back, hands slightly greasy from work, his eyes warm and encouraging. Her heart leapt. In that moment she knew who she wanted. Not for wealth, not for politics, not for appearances. She wanted him. The human who had listened, who had laughed with her, who had shown her kindness and respect when no one else had. Liara took a deep breath and spoke. Her voice was clear, steady, and strong. I will not choose anyone from among you, she said. A hush fell over the hall. I choose someone who sees me, who cares for me, and who has been my friend when no one else would. I choose Ethan, the human mechanic. A shocked silence filled the room. Delegates froze. The court murmured in disbelief. No princess had ever chosen a human before, let alone someone so humble. Liara's heart pounded, but she felt no fear. For the first time she felt free. Ethan blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. Then a smile spread across his face. He stepped forward slowly, awe and joy written across his features. Liara, are you sure? He asked softly. I am sure, she said, reaching out her hand. You've seen me for who I am. You've cared for me. That is worth more than all the riches and titles in the galaxy. He took her hand gently, feeling the warmth and trust in her touch. The crowd watched in silence, witnessing a choice that defied tradition but felt right. Slowly, some of the delegates began to clap, hesitant at first, then with growing enthusiasm. Others whispered, amazed at the courage of the princess. Liara turned to Ethan, her violet eyes shining. I don't need anyone else, she said. I just need you. And I need you, he replied. Always. In that moment the summit hall seemed to change. It wasn't about titles, wealth, or power anymore. It was about trust, respect, and love, simple truths that transcended species, planets, and expectations. Liara and Ethan stood together, a princess and a human mechanic, united not by duty but by choice. The court, once doubtful and cautious, slowly began to smile. Aliens who had ignored her began to see her differently. They realized that happiness and connection could not be bought or commanded. They could only be earned through honesty, care, and courage. As the stars shone brightly outside the chamber windows, Liara and Ethan walked together out of the hall. The galaxy felt bigger and brighter than ever before. For the first time, Liara felt truly alive. She had chosen not for duty, not for appearances, but for her heart. And with Ethan by her side, she knew that the adventures ahead would be full of hope, laughter, and endless possibilities. The excitement of the Galactic Summit still buzzed through the space station, but for Liara the real test was yet to come. Though she had announced her choice of Ethan, the human mechanic, the reactions around her were mixed. Some looked shocked, some confused, and a few whispered that she could not possibly be serious. The court advisors frowned, trying to maintain control over the situation. To them, a human was far beneath the rank of a princess. Liara stood tall in the grand hall, her hands folded in front of her, her violet eyes steady. She had never felt so certain in her life. Every moment with Ethan had shown her what true friendship and care looked like. He had listened when no one else did. He had encouraged her when she doubted herself. And he had never judged her for being different. Ethan, standing quietly at the back of the hall, felt nervous. He had never been in such a grand place, surrounded by beings of countless planets and powerful voices. But when he saw Liara, his confidence grew. She looked strong, beautiful, and sure. He knew that this was her choice, and he would not let her face the consequences alone. The summit master stepped forward, his voice echoing through the hall. "Princess Liara, you have spoken your decision. Do you understand that this choice defies centuries of tradition and could be challenged by the council?" Liara met his gaze without hesitation. "I understand," she said firmly. "And I choose Ethan because he sees me for who I truly am, not for my title. He is my friend, my equal, and the one I trust. That is worth more than tradition." A murmur ran through the hall. Delegates whispered, some shaking their heads, others staring in disbelief. But Liara did not waver. She had made her decision. She would not let the expectations of others dictate her happiness. The summit master raised an eyebrow. "And you, human mechanic, do you accept this responsibility?" Ethan swallowed, his throat dry, but his eyes never left Liara's. "I do," he said simply. "I will honor her trust, care for her, and stand by her side. Not because she is a princess but because she is Liara." A hush fell over the hall. No one had ever heard a human speak with such courage before. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Some tried to object, but Liara raised her hand. "This is not about titles or wealth," she said. "This is about honesty, respect, and care. That is what matters most in life." The delegates began to whisper louder, and some even stepped back in admiration. Slowly, the tension in the hall began to change. People realized that Liara was not just a princess. She was a leader who valued truth over tradition, heart over status. Liara walked forward, her steps steady, until she stood beside Ethan. She reached out her hand and he took it without hesitation. Their hands clasped, a simple gesture that spoke volumes. In that moment they were equals, partners, and friends. Nothing else mattered. "Princess Liara, human Ethan," the summit master said, his voice softer now, "it seems you have chosen your path. Though unconventional, your decision is respected. Let it be recorded that this day marks a new chapter for the royal family and for the galaxy." Liara's heart lifted. She had never imagined that her choice would be accepted so quickly. She looked at Ethan and he smiled at her, warmth and pride shining in his eyes. She felt a surge of joy. For the first time, she believed that being true to herself could change the world. As the delegates began to applaud, Liara and Ethan turned to the wide windows of the chamber. The stars of countless galaxies stretched before them, sparkling with possibility. She realized that life was no longer about fitting in or pleasing others. It was about following her heart and surrounding herself with those who truly cared. Ethan leaned slightly toward her and whispered, "You did it. You stood up for what matters. I'm proud of you." Liara smiled, feeling tears of happiness well in her eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said softly. "You've always believed in me when no one else did." He shook his head gently. "I just saw what you didn't see yourself. And now, we face everything together." The court slowly began to accept the choice, and even some of the skeptical delegates nodded in respect. Liara realized that her courage had not only changed her life but had also started to change the attitudes of those around her. The galaxy was beginning to see that love, trust, and friendship could cross any boundary, species, or expectation. As the ceremony concluded, Liara and Ethan stepped out into the corridor together. The station was alive with lights, colors, and movement, but nothing felt overwhelming. Liara felt a sense of freedom she had never known. She could be herself, choose her path, and share her life with someone who cared for her. For the first time, the loneliness that had haunted her for so long felt like it was fading. She and Ethan walked side by side, ready to explore the galaxy, to repair ships, to meet new people, and to create a life built on trust, respect, and joy. As they looked out over the glittering expanse of stars, Liara thought quietly, "I never wanted to be chosen for my title. I just wanted to be seen. And now, I am." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. And I always will see you, Liara. Always. The stars above seemed to shine brighter, as if celebrating their choice. Together, the alien princess and the human mechanic had stepped into a new future, one where friendship, courage, and love mattered more than tradition or expectation. The station was quiet in the early hours, the glow of distant stars reflecting on the smooth metal walls. Liara and Ethan stood together on the observation deck, looking out at the galaxy. For the first time, Liara felt calm, happy, and completely herself. She had faced the expectations of her palace, chosen her own path, and found someone who truly cared for her. And that someone was Ethan, a human mechanic who had never sought power or recognition, but whose heart was bigger than the stars themselves. Life in the palace began to change slowly. Some of the council members still whispered, still looked doubtful, but others began to respect Liara's choice. They realized that her courage and honesty had shown them a new way to think about relationships, leadership, and trust. The delegates at the summit who had been shocked now saw the truth. Love and friendship could not be dictated by status or tradition. Liara spent her days differently now. Instead of walking alone through the gardens, she explored the space station with Ethan. They visited workshops, helped engineers with repairs, and even assisted in designing new starships. Liara learned more about machines and technology than she had ever imagined, and she discovered that she loved problem-solving, tinkering, and creating. Ethan, patient as ever, guided her with simple instructions, showing her the value of persistence and curiosity. The other aliens began to notice. Slowly, some came to watch as Liara worked with Ethan, seeing the joy in her eyes, the laughter she shared, and the confidence she had gained. Children from visiting planets were especially curious. They saw that the princess was not untouchable or distant, but kind, clever, and approachable. Liara began to teach them small lessons about machines, about exploring, and about being brave enough to follow your heart. One afternoon, as they repaired a small shuttle together, Liara paused and looked at Ethan. "I never thought I could feel this happy," she said softly. "I was always so lonely before. I thought no one wanted me." Ethan smiled, wiping grease from his hands. "You were never alone. You just hadn't met someone who truly saw you yet. And now you have me." Liara laughed lightly. "You've changed everything. You've shown me that I can be more than a princess in a palace. I can be someone who helps, someone who explores, someone who matters." "You already matter," Ethan said simply. "You always did. You just needed to see it yourself." Days turned into weeks, and Liara and Ethan's friendship grew stronger. They traveled beyond the space station on small missions, helping communities repair their ships, fix engines, and solve problems. Wherever they went, people admired them, not because Liara was a princess or because Ethan was human, but because together they showed that kindness, skill, and courage mattered more than titles. One evening, Liara looked out over the stars and took a deep breath. "Ethan, do you ever think about the future? About where we could go?" "All the time," he said. "There are countless worlds out there and we can explore them together. We can help people, fix things, learn new skills. We can make a difference." Liara nodded. She felt a thrill at the possibilities. "I want that. I want to see it all. I want to be part of something bigger than myself, and I want to do it with you." Ethan smiled, taking her hand gently. "Then we will. No matter what, we'll face it together." In the weeks and months that followed, Liara and Ethan became a symbol of hope and friendship across the galaxy. Aliens who had once ignored the princess began to seek her advice, not for her title but for her insight, her courage, and her heart. Humans and aliens alike saw that barriers could be broken, that species and rank did not define worth. Liara felt proud, not because of power or recognition, but because she had stayed true to herself and had helped others believe in the same. And through it all, Ethan remained by her side. He fixed broken ships, solved impossible problems, and shared simple joys: meals under starlit skies, quiet moments on observation decks, and laughter over small mistakes. Liara realized that love was not about grand gestures or ceremonies. It was about trust, care, and being present for someone every day. One quiet night, as the twin moons of the alien planet rose high above the station, Liara and Ethan stood on the deck, hands entwined. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, full of unknown stars, distant planets, and endless adventures. Liara whispered softly, "No one wanted me, until you did." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "And I always will, Liara. Always." Liara smiled, her heart full. She no longer felt lonely, invisible, or unwanted. She was part of a world that was bigger than she had ever imagined, and she had found someone to share it with. Together, the alien princess and the human mechanic looked toward the stars, ready for the adventures that awaited them. They had chosen each other and in doing so had shown that courage, kindness and love could cross any boundary, species, title or expectation. The galaxy seemed brighter than ever. And for Liara and Ethan the future was endless, full of possibilities, laughter and a friendship, and love, that could never be broken.